I'm Jacqueline Nuesch from SewChic Eco Decor, and I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about sustainably beautiful interiors. So when we talk about sustainably beautiful interiors, the first thing that people often ask is, what does that mean? So a number of years ago, I decided to decorate our house with entirely sustainable furnishings. I had done a lot of research from different books and various different avenues and a lot of shopping. And when we moved to Saskatoon, I looked at hiring an interior design firm to do up our house based on the principles that I had decided we should meet when decorating our house. And the company that I went to didn't know what I meant when I asked about sustainable furnishings. So I went back home and I typed up a 4-page document of everything that may or could include, and I sent it back to them, and they said, it seems like you know a lot more than us about sustainable furnishings, why don't you just do the place yourself? So I said okay, and I started a company doing that. So that was how I got started. So a couple things that we're going to talk, when I look at sustainability, I like to encompass a whole bunch of different areas. So I look at the health, what it's doing to the people living in those places, what it's doing to the people building those products in the companies and countries in which those products are made. Economics, is it sustainable for a local economy? Is it sustainable for a global economy? Is it sustainable for the overall budget of the individuals involved? And I also look at the environment. What does it take out of the environment to produce those products? How do those products get back into the environment? How do they biodegrade? How are they recycled after? And things like that. So I've done up a checkpoint that I try and look at when designing projects. So the first thing is the product locally sold, sourced, or produced? Generally, we like to support local companies because the amount of money that goes back into the economy is significantly greater when you support a local economy. Where is the product sourced? If the product has to travel halfway across the globe in order for us to use it, then we're looking at large transportation costs. So that increases the amount of greenhouse gas emissions, the amount of energy that goes into the transportation. And where is it produced? Again, are we supporting our local economy? Are we using products that work well in the environments that they're designed to be used? Are we importing wood from abroad that's going to warp or bend or shrink? Or are we using local wood that's going to work well with our existing climates? Toxicity and off-gassing. Some people get really sick from the indoor air pollution in a home. The US government estimates that your indoor air pollution can be up to 100 times greater than the outdoor air pollution. They also say that $15 billion and 150 million workdays every year are lost from productivity due to indoor air pollution issues. So that's looking at the VOCs that are released in our paints and our stain finishes, the glues that are used for our vinyl and hardwood floorings, and the foam that is used in our couches. Is it soy-based or is it petroleum-based? Next, I like to use reused, reclaimed, or repurposed products whenever possible. The reason I like this is because the inputs have already gone into developing them. Quite often they're already existing in your local area, so you're not transporting them from far away. And ultimately, it's always better to use something in existence rather than to produce something new, even if the new item comes from reclaimed wood or recycled products. Fourth, is the piece made from natural, biodegradable, or recycled inputs? So we always prefer to use something that comes from nature. We prefer wood as opposed to plastic. We prefer stone as opposed to laminates and glues. Biodegradable, is it something that can biodegrade back into the earth, or is it going to end up in a landfill or take a lot of resources and chemicals to bring it back to a state that we can use it again? And lastly, is it recyclable? Are we working with plastics that can be broken down and made into new products, or is it plastics that have to end up in a landfill? Another thing we look at is how practical is the piece. So with that, we look at longevity, lifetime value, and dual purpose. So longevity, you're always better to install a kitchen that lasts for 25 or 30 years as opposed to a cheap particle board one that falls apart after 12 and a half years, which is the average amount of time before a kitchen gets replaced. Lifetime value, is it something that, does your child's crib then turn into a bed, then turn into a love seat sort of sofa area that you can use as a piece in your office when they move away from home, or do we need to purchase 3 separate pieces for that product? And dual purpose, is our coffee table also an ottoman, or is it strictly a coffee table and we need another piece of furniture to look after that other use? I also like to look at the applied principles of feng shui, as well as efficient space planning and layouts. So with feng shui, we're creating environments that people like to be in and they like to live in. If your room flows well, if it feels comfortable, if it does what it's designed to do, and if it works with the personalities of the people that are living there, you're going to appreciate the space and you're going to want to spend more time in it, live there longer, and you'll have less desire to replace or redo the environment. As well, we look at space planning and layouts, compact design, how many different uses can we merge into one space, how many different areas can we create for the room. The area under the stairs, is it going to be vacant space? Is it going to be a sitting area? Is there going to be a Murphy bed that can be used for guests? Is it going to act as extra storage? The better our homes are laid out, the smaller they can be. I also look at ethical and sustainable manufacturing practices of suppliers. So I have a book at home and it's called The Green Shopping Guide, and it takes multinational companies and it rates them on a scale from A to F, or A plus to F. So are they excelling and succeeding, or are they failing? My husband and I have a personal sort of mission that we buy companies that are B or higher. So that covers everything from appliances to electronics to, I don't know, banking and investment purposes. And that's good for us because a lot of the companies that do everything we need them to do are smaller companies, and it's hard to source them out. So as a last resort, it's nice to say, you know what, I can buy a Sony laptop because they're an A- and they're a really good overall company. Cost-benefit analysis and return on investment. So are we better to spend $4,000 on our fridge to save $5 or $10 extra of money a year, or are we better to spend $1,500 on our fridge and invest $2,500 into a solar thermal system? Where is the money best spent as far as environmental trade-offs? And lastly, minimalism. Using, purchasing, and storing only what you need. If you don't need a new piece of furniture to begin with, why are we buying it anyways? It doesn't matter if it's reused, recycled, reclaimed, repurposed. We probably just shouldn't be buying it. So this brings us to the problem of information overload. How do we possibly make purchases given those kind of parameters and what we need to take into account when we're buying stuff? The simple rule of thumb that my husband and I have adopted is purchase products that are one step better than your previous purchasing decision and encourage one other person to do the same. So some of the things we purchase hit 4 or 5 different points on my scale. Some purchases only hit 1 or 2. It makes it a lot easier to live by, and it makes it easy to live a normal life where you fit in with the people around you. We also have the belief that sustainable change happens in increments, one step at a time. So the first thing I want to talk about is different flooring options. So bamboo is considered a really sustainable option. Your typical oak flooring gets replaced can get harvested after 50 or 60 years, whereas bamboo is ready for flooring after 2 or 3 years. The other thing we love about bamboo is that because it grows like a weed, we don't require any fertilizers or pesticides to grow the crop. It does come from halfway around the world, but when you take the other factors into account, it's still a more sustainable option. It also, it has 10 times the tensile strength of steel vertically, and it's much stronger horizontally, so it's going to wear better than a lot of hardwood. When you look at, at first I asked myself, so how much are we really chopping down for our hardwood flooring every year? We are chopping down the equivalent of providing every single town, village, city, and borough in the United States with an 8-acre forest of old growth trees. So that's on an annual basis. Another option that lots of people consider is cork. Some people say, why are we considering cork? Cork is an endangered species. Why would we want to harvest it? Cork gets harvested off a living tree, and you can keep harvesting cork off that tree until you're done harvesting it. So when people stop harvesting cork, they decide, okay, we're going to clear cut the cork forest and plant something else. So it's supporting the cork industry that actually keeps the cork trees alive. Linoleum and marmoleum versus vinyl. So vinyl is a petroleum-based product. I have as a side note, if we were to replace 1% of the vinyl flooring installed every year with linoleum or marmoleum, we would save 600,000 barrels of oil per year. So, linoleum and marmoleum both come from linseed and flaxseed oil, so it's both biodegradable and renewable. Concrete is considered a very good sustainable option as well. It works great we've used it in the Verico home as a thermal mass for the house to trap our energy. It's also a fairly local product, and when you're working with concrete, you're transporting the raw material or the dry ingredient, so you're not transporting